You ready? All right, good evening. Call the City of Bay St. Louis, August 20th, 2024, meeting to order. We'll start with a prayer led by the pledge by Reverend Reed.
Well, let's pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Father, once again, we stand in your presence today because your presence is everywhere in the earth. And Father, we're thanking you for our city and our citizenry. Father, we always give thanks because you have done such a wonderful job with us as a city and with our citizenry. And we ask that your blessings and that your keeping power would always be upon us and upon our coastline. We ask for your wisdom, your knowledge, and your understanding tonight. God, be endowed upon this city council and this administration to make the right decisions, Father, for our city, that we might be led in the right direction. We ask this in the name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone, to the meeting. Agenda amendments. I'd like to move up the public forum right above the mayor's report. Before we talk about short-term rentals. Anybody got objection with that?
No.
That wasn't me. Any other amendment changes? All right, announcements. Special meeting set for Tuesday, September 10th, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. to adopt the budget and set millage. Special election will be held on September 17th, 2024 for Ward 5 council member. And then City Hall will be closed on September 2nd, 2024 in observance of Labor Day. We have any guests? Motion to approve minutes, August 1st, 2024, August 6th, 2024, and August 13th, 2024. Read the minutes and as amended. Caitlin, you updated the minutes. Any motion? Motion, Mr. Salvo, second, Mr. Hoffman. Any discussion? Vote to motion.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye, motion passed 6-0. Plan and zoning, first application, Charles Preer was withdrawn. Second application, motion to file plan and zone recommendation, approve application for special exception to zoning ordinance submitted by Selena LeBlanc to allow accessory dwelling located at 411 Valentine Street. It was approved by plan and zoning 420. Does anyone like to speak on that application?
Ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen of the board, my name is Skip McGrath. I've been before this body in the past as a lawyer talking about things like this. I'm not here in that capacity tonight. I'm here as a friend of Selena. I know her because she works at the Pass Christian Yacht Club along with her daughter and her son. Selena's a single mom raising 3 kids from the ages 20 to 8. She lives in a 2-bedroom home, 1.5 bath. This request is to convert a small outbuilding that she has into a living quarters. And the purpose is she's got 2 boys and a girl. She needs extra living space. I understand that it was considered before by the board. The board was concerned that she might convert this into a rental type property, sell it as a rental type property. All I would recommend to this board is, if that's the concern, I would ask you to approve it conditionally. Give it a conditional approval. And if she rents it, the approval's withdrawn. That's simply my request.
Thank you. Discussion from council?
Yeah, just a couple of things. I mean, I think, we sympathize. Everyone's situation is a little different. I know, sometimes we face, it's not the intent of what the individual that owns the property now, it's if it is sold in the future, then what does that become? And then secondly, do we not, so with the accessory dwellings, we do have a minimum square footage, correct? 700 square feet minimum for an accessory dwelling
No, it's 750 would
It's on-
be for your primary,
Primary dwelling.
as the what, as
Primary dwelling.
primary.
primary, okay.
Your accessory cannot exceed
Half.
50% of your primary dwelling.
And what, the administration's recommendation, I don't, it's not filled out on here, but it does have some concerns, so the administration's recommendation is to deny the applicant
Well, I
a
think,
special exception?
no, I think that, the first one was, yeah, you know, when we looked at it last time, you know, it was worried about parking and everything and all. I think now they clearly have it marked out with parking and all, which for the primary and the, you know, both homes would have enough parking there for them. They're not asking for any type of setbacks. It's a big yard positioned towards the back side of the house, you know, and all. Anything that would be done to convert this over would have to go through the building department, you know, brought up to codes, make sure everything with the wind and all that before it would even be done.
Any more discussion from council? My concern, my issue with these applications, there's no drawings, there's no plans. We're approving something. We don't have to approve what it looks like, we don't have to approve the plans, but someone could come in and build whatever they wanted. We have no perusal. It's a special exception that the city council votes on, and we have no idea what we're putting back there. Right? I know.
That is correct, but
So
what
that's-
you're voting on is
A use.
the opportunity for them to put this. You're not voting on what's going in as long as it meets code and ordinances and all. You don't, you know, we don't regulate color, we don't
don't.
regulate, you know, design or anything. They can, you know, as long as it meets all of our ordinances and brought up to codes and everything for a living area, it's not asking for setbacks or anything like that, and that's, you know, that's what it is. Right now, all they asking for, you know, is a special exception to allow this to come in. It's, you know,
Approving something sight unseen and approving something in the blind. So that's just me. Any more discussion? Any motion or discussion? Gary?
Doug, I noticed this is zoned R2. So whatever dwelling that they want to put on there, they could possibly split it. And you have 2 units there. Because there's no drawings, there's no anything to do this, so, I just don't think this is an appropriate thing to go ahead and pass today, but that's just me.
Sir?
If I'm, once again, I understand your concern, but again, you can do this as a conditional approval if you have.
Yeah, but that gets lost, you know, with people change and things like that, and they could have an R2 dwelling there by right. And it doesn't mean conditional, because we can't change the zoning on something. Just because we say, hey, we're changing the zoning now, that has to go through a process as well. And so that would not
but they
work.
couldn't turn both of these into an R2.
Excuse me?
You saying they could turn these into
It's zoned
R2
R2.
duplexes?
Well,
They
I
can't
think-
do
I
that.
think, Mayor, I think the clarification here is that if they wanted to divide the parcel, they would have to bring that back before you
Correct.
guys. They just couldn't go down to the tax office and split it in half and then have 2 different
That is true.
residences. They would have to bring it back
That's-
towards planning and zoning under a different application process.
So the administration's recommendation was to do what on this, approve or deny?
To approve this.
From the last correspondence, it was to approve it.
Yes. You know, originally when they came, you know, it was concerns on parking. You know, but with other ones that's been allowed, put in the city, you know, I think last time was concerns on whether there wasn't any in the neighborhood. Now, I think all the people in the neighborhood is okay with this, but we put them in neighborhoods since then that has none in the neighborhood. On narrow streets, we've allowed another dwelling coming on board on the end of Citizen Street, I think it is, or Sycamore, one of them, that already had a dwelling, and we allowed, which the accessory dwelling should have been half, but we allowed them to create a new dwelling 2 or 3 times the size of the existing dwelling and let them swap places. You know, and so trying to be consistent with what's been going on is the reason, you know, we think, again, it's gotta be brought up to codes and everything and approved by building department, inspected and everything else.
All right, any more discussion from council? Any motion?
I'm gonna make a motion that we overturn planning and zoning's, recommendation on this. In my opinion, this is too vague. Again, you don't have any plans, even though they're not required. I just don't like the way this is set up at this point. It's gonna probably go against our comprehensive plan that's sitting on everybody's desk right now. And, so anyway, I'll make a motion that we overturn planning and zoning's recommendation.
All right, motion, Mr. Noblock,
Second.
second, Mr. Lewis. Any further discussion? Let's vote the motion.
Nay. Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-2. Overturn, planning and zoning denies. Next application. Is there, let me find my way place here, switch screens. All right, next is motion to file plan and zone recommendation, approve the application for variance of 15 feet resulting in 10-foot setback to the front yard, or variance of 3.6 foot resulting in a 4.6 foot setback to the side yard, a variance of 14.6 foot resulting in a 5.6 foot setback to the rear yard submitted by Marilyn Landry and Ava Hingle located at 346 Demolition. It's approved 3-1. This has been approved by Historical Preservation Committee already, according to the information we was given. That's correct, Mr. Cliff?
Yes, it's
Thank you.
Rowley.
Good afternoon, sir.
My understanding is yes, that's correct, Douglas.
346 Demolition has been approved by HPC, the additions? Yes, according to the plans it has.
Marlon Landry and Ava Hingle.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Okay.
that might ring a bell to you.
Yeah, I've spoken with
Okay.
Ms. Hingle and texted with them.
If
as
they
well.
didn't, you probably would remember them, so.
I've ridden by there. This is not good. This is not gonna change the existing footprint any, or what actually is in place now as far as the side yard setback, or I think the only change to the little bit of the change to the setbacks is the front porch. They're adding a couple of feet to it.
Just continuation of non-conformance is what we're looking
Yes,
at.
correct.
Well, basically, we're enclosing already roofed areas for about 80% of what we're adding on right now.
And
The
we did-
biggest addition, as you mentioned, is the extension of our front porch, a couple of feet out, so we can get a handicap accessible entry there. And we're extending it to the side of the house to give us a little porch that faces the pond. So,
Right.
in tune with what the neighborhood is developing towards.
So you're closing your carport. Did you ever park under there, or you still gonna have, meet your parking requirements?
The only thing we've ever had under there was a golf cart. We did agree with permits to extend our parking to give two 10-foot wide places, 20-foot wide driveway.
Okay.
We have a historic oak adjacent to that. We have to keep it impermeable, and we agreed to do that.
Yep, okay. Thank you. We're good, yeah. Simple. All right, any discussion from council? Make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion, Mr. Hoffman.
Second.
Second, Mr. Salvo. Any discussion? Vote to motion.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Motion passes 4-2. Thank you. Aye. We had a public hearing at the planning and zoning meeting, and we are here approving. So planning and zoning was our public hearing.
Well, I had another opposition who wrote a letter to it,
Okay, thank you.
so don't make any difference now, does it?
All right, so, guest. So next item after we, on the mayor's report, is motion to adopt the ordinance of city council, short-term rental registration and regulations.
Wait, I think,
Doug, hey, we left
I know.
Moffett and Nickel came by the harbor update. Is there any way we can put them before the public?
Sure.
I know,
It was left
Yeah, I'll speak to that. I invited them. I was supposed to add an agenda item for their proposal. I'd like to still give them the opportunity to speak and just talk about their proposal for y'all.
That's fine.
This basically is the design of the settlement work and to get that part moving using Tidelands funds that we've already have in place. I meant to have a consent agenda item for that
Do we have any paperwork
That was
on
me.
this?
No, we're not gonna approve it tonight. I'm just gonna ask if they could speak to it, about the work, what they're gonna do. And then at our next meeting, I'll add the proposal and ask for your approval.
Okay, sounds
But
good.
they've come from Mobile and Baton Rouge, maybe. I just didn't-
Well, Mr. President.
That was a
go ahead and
mistake
make
I
a
did.
Motion to amend your agenda
The
to allow them
amendment.
to speak.
10-4. All right. Come on
You
down.
voted?
Good afternoon. So on March 5th, we were here,
Name, please.
Cy,
Cy from?
Tiger, Dewberry, Baton Rouge, Malvern, Nickel.
Okay, thank you.
I'm a structural engineer, senior structural engineer. On March 5th, we came to present our options to fix the marina for the sediment losses behind the bulkhead and the event deck. We have presented different options to repair in stages or, different types of repairs. And after further consideration and engineering analysis from our end, we recommend to do the repairs for the entire length of the bulkhead, which could be done in phases at the same time of construction, to where the parking is not limited and the access to the marina is not being limited. So that's what we have presented in our proposal, and we also gave another proposal for doing a benefit cost analysis for the event deck to be replaced into 4 marinas, I believe, slips, and to check if we can install a replaceable, like a movable canopy or a permanent canopy on that event deck, since that event deck hasn't been, to our knowledge, been best utilized. And from what we hear, the demand for the marina has also increased. So we have split these two proposals. The engineering and design fee for the repairs for the entire length of the bulkhead, Pier 1 bulkhead, and the event deck is $186,000 to support the city through bidding and negotiation process. And
I'm sorry, can you be more clear on what you're saying about the cost?
Yeah,
That's in addition to,
So that's our engineering fee proposal that we have presented, is $186,000 to provide detailed design and specifications through construction admin.
Okay.
I mean, not construction, through bidding.
Okay, so when it came
And-
construction, it would be,
And then
additional fees for,
To do construction oversight and any other construction administration support.
And the reason to break that up is because we're asking them to design the entire project. That gives us capacity, if we get funding, as we've requested, in a grant, if we get it all, then we can possibly do the whole project. If we only have a part of it, we might want to break up the construction piece and do pieces based on how funding is. But we want them to design the whole thing, and then from there, again, if we only do a phase, the construction phase will be a smaller amount for each piece for them.
Yeah, I guess the idea was, after our inspection, we have only noticed there are certain locations that are badly failing, or heavily failing, and there are some we still see a couple of inches to 6 inches of sediment in the other areas that didn't seem as concerning. But the idea here is to not to delay the process and while fixing the issue, since the engineering design principle behind the constructed bulkhead were not up to the recommended standard. We recommend to design it for the entire length of the bulkhead, so no more additional settlements were to be expected.
Can you just comment on some of the engineering that y'all see, how y'all would recommend putting it back?
So
What comments would we be doing?
Yeah, so we the idea is not to demo any of the existing bulkhead or because it's a concrete bulkhead. We didn't see any heavy deflections or damages to the concrete bulkhead itself. So what we were planning on doing is doing sloped excavations behind and being a little careful with all the utilities and other infrastructure behind it, and then install in a nutshell, install a fabric and weave poles to the bulkhead, to where the flow, the natural flow of the groundwater seepage through the bulkhead is not going through the actual, bulkhead joints, but through these, weep holes. So,
So this was the $2.1 million?
Correct.
Repair.
That was, well, that had like about a 600,000 contingency, I think it was like 30% or some
Yes,
number.
okay.
It was a high number.
because it's, yeah.
Construction cost right now.
Right. Okay.
Jonathan Hurd, principal of Moffett Nickel. I think just to answer Mike's question, to get back to the root of this, the project was not designed as it should have been. There were some design flaws, and it wasn't constructed to the incorrect design. So you've got a twofold inadequacy in the design and the construction. The intent here is to go back and reinstall the silt curtain below the mud line, as what should have happened in the first time, and then grout between the panels, as what should have happened correctly the first time, and install weep holes to provide an extra insurance against failure mechanism, which should have happened the first time. I do remember the best scope of work I've ever been given to me was by the mayor of Morgan City, Bugrasaf. He said, Jonathan, I want you to get me out of the plank replacement business. This methodology of what we're proposing will get you out of the grouting business. And by designing it in its entirety, we can, depending on what funds we get through the Royal We can repair, construct the hotspots, and as more funds become available, repair in its entirety. It's cheaper to do it all at once, and full open heart surgery. We can do it in a split and keep access to the marina open, because obviously that's an economic driver for downtown and has been for many years, and it's beautiful to see.
All right, thank you. So we'll have written proposals next
So-
meeting.
Yeah, I was supposed to add it on this agenda, my failure. So on next agenda, I would just add it, I won't bring them back for y'all to consider, but that way you have the paper document in front of you before y'all vote on that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just one.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, if you don't mind. At that last meeting, somebody did ask, well, what happens if we just ripped out the event deck and put some more 60-foot slips in there? Because there's obviously demand. There's a very, very nice boat park there right now, actually. I
Yeah.
went down to look at it. It's a numbers game, right? There's a cost to rip it out, there's a cost to put the bulkhead in, and then there is a cost to recoup that cost in extra 60-foot slipping. So at the end of the day, you'll get an answer that says A or B.
Yeah, cost benefit analysis. on it.
Yeah, it's really that simple.
Yep, yep, that's what we just need to look at the pros and cons of it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. There's no reason for y'all to stay any longer. Go.
Unless you just wanna.
Unless you
join
wanna hang
fun,
out.
You're welcome.
I know they drove.
All righty, Melanie Mitchell?
Good afternoon. My name is Melanie Mitchell. I'm an attorney with Balch and Bingham, and I'm here tonight on behalf of Bob and Mary Ellen Warner to object to the short-term rental ordinance 669-08-2024. Our objections have been memorialized in a letter that was delivered this afternoon to Heather Smith, and my purpose here tonight is just to make sure that all of the council members receive a copy prior to any vote that takes place tonight. And our objections in part are based on the fact that the ordinance constitutes over-regulation and unfairly targets short-term rental owners. So I'll just pass that out to you.
Thank you.
And again, we just ask that our objections are considered prior to any vote. So thank you for your time.
All right, George, 344 Demolition. Who's George? I can't read your last name. You write worse than I do. All right. Next, Ted Black. Mr. Ted, short-term rentals, assistant, accessory dwelling.
Councilman Seal, are you sticking to your 3-minute time?
Yes, ma'am.
I wonder why she thought probably when I came up here, huh?
Okay, you can talk.
Okay, first of all, I want y'all to go back and read section 403.4 B. Too late now, but I want y'all to read that in the zoning book. Short-term rentals. Does this ordinance limit any short-term rental?
No, sir, we did not put a.
Does
cap
this ordinance provide off-street parking?
It provides a parking plan, yes, sir.
Okay, it does, but it doesn't limit them.
It says you have to have
Limited anywhere by state law.
required to have a parking plan. And that's one of my questions as well.
Okay, but we're not limiting them. When the comprehensive plan says we have too many right now.
Right.
So basically, the only thing this ordinance does is create a tax.
Registration, identification. It does allow for inspections that we do not do today. Yes, sir, so it does things.
But it doesn't
besides
limit them.
tax.
When we're supposed to be trying to come up with something to limit short-term rental.
They're self-limiting.
I don't believe that.
They're for sale today.
But I do want y'all to go back and read 403
Okay.
for non-conforming uses. Y'all just violate the building codes one after another.
All right, Mr. Paul, Michael, Michelle, 2 Pompano Circle, Kathleen Monty.
Good evening, Kathleen Monty, 105 Sycamore Street, and I did speak last meeting, impromptu, and kind of doing the same thing this meeting, in regards to the short-term rental ordinance, and I'm asking again, begging you again, to please not kick the can down the road. We've been trying to get something on the books since 2015. I have a lot of economic arguments, but tonight I'll just get to this part of it. Over and over again, I've been told about, don't want to restrict people in business, in their properties. And I keep saying this is a business that's being operated in our residentially zoned areas. They advertise, they have customers coming onto the property, money is exchanged, taxes are collected. That, in my view, is a business. I don't know what yours is. And it's not that I have any problems with short-term rentals. We have 4 on my street, and most people are good players. But the ones that are not are causing trouble. And the city has no baseline whatsoever to know who the owners are and the people who live by and surrounding. Yes, we have a noise ordinance. Yes, we have disturbance of the peace. But if I had a beauty shop operator open up in her house next to me, or an accountant open up his business in a house next to me, you would be all over him because he's operating a business in a residentially zoned area. I don't get that there's any difference here. I really don't. Because the beauty operator also advertises, has customers, collects money, pays taxes. There is no difference. The city, the $300 fee that the city is charging is not excessive. It's a cost of business. I was in business for 30 years. The registration gives the city a baseline so that we at least know what short-term rentals are here in the city. It gives the administration contact information critical for emergencies and resolution of any problems that neighbors might have. It does not limit the number of short-term rental units in the city, and it does not restrict them from residentially zoned areas. The city of Biloxi doesn't even allow them in residentially zoned areas at all, period. This ordinance is so bare bones that I don't understand why anybody is objecting to it. It just makes no sense to me. I cannot comprehend it. The ordinances for Waveland, Diamond Head, Pastor-Christian, and Biloxi and Ocean Springs are much meatier and much more restrictive. We are begging you as neighbors who have this as a growing trend in our neighborhoods to please put this bare bones ordinance in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Mr. Cliff.
Doug. It is self-limiting. I sold mine because the business isn't that good. All right, just for clarification, rental property is rental property. The length of the rental does not change that. It's rental property. So if this is gonna apply to short term, it needs to apply to all rental property. I'm not even gonna try to tell y'all not to pass it, cause I know you already got your minds made up, so we'll get past that. Biloxi, Gulfport, Ocean Springs, if they don't have one tourist show up in that town, how much is it really gonna affect them? How much is it gonna affect Bay St. Louis if we have tourists quit coming? There's a significant difference there, gentlemen. Every other time that this subject has come up, there's been a room full. Just coincidental, last meeting and this meeting, no emails went out announcing that this subject was gonna be discussed. I find that rather odd. That some of y'all I actually talked to, I found it odd. I found out about it last go round, about 15 minutes before the meeting started. I think you should probably have one publicly announced so that you can have the people who do support these, the economic basis of our city, come and speak. Last meeting, the agenda wasn't showing up. Seems that, from my perspective, it looks like we're trying to slip this through while nobody's watching. Tourism is the basis of the economy of this city. It isn't of most other places. Until Mike Cure built a hotel here, Nikki's place was one of the few places people could stay. We, as a city, have disincentivized RV parks for years, and they just don't come. So I'm a tourist. I want to come to Bay St. Louis. There's no motels. There's no RV parks. Gee, yeah, we got VRBOs. That has been the economic boom for this city. That is what has allowed this city to have an economic growth. Short-term rentals filled the need and provided that boom. Those of us who have operated them will tell you they help pay for the property. They're not a cash cow like most people think. They're a lot of work. You employ people to clean. You employ people to do other things. This ordinance appears to be an attempt to glean some of the money. It's just a cash grab, plain and simple. You read Aesop's fable about the goose that lays the golden eggs. When you start bleeding the goose, you lose all the gold. And gentlemen, that's what we're doing here. This ordinance, the way it's written, is a strong, there is not a lot, if y'all want, I would show you my returns for that business. Okay, thank you, Doug. Ordinance is a strong disincentive to operate a strong short-term rental. It'll go back to the old days where the guests that show up are relatives and friends. You'll see a second homes periodically have been bought here. They do that. Ability to offset some of the cost of ownership has resulted in an increase of the value of the homes and a related increase in property tax revenue. When there are fewer places to stay in Bay St. Louis, there will be fewer tourists staying here and less money being brought into the city. There are only two negative documented, what problems are we fixing? I don't know of any documented problems that we're gonna fix. I would ask that you remove the disincentives to operate a VRBO in Bay St. Louis.
Thank you, Mr. Cliff.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you, gentlemen.
Ms. Anita?
Anita Warner, 417 3rd Street. I was on the committee that was advising for the new plan. And at that time, a year and a half ago, we had 483 VRBOs. I say ditto to what Ms. Monty said, and we'd have too many. But if we're going to pass this ordinance, then I ask that as part of what you're requiring these people to do, that you publish the name, the street address, and the 24-hour number, because it requires them to give you a 24-hour number if there's a problem, so that we personally who live here can use that list published on the city website, go there and call the person, the 24-hour person, and say, we got a problem. rather than calling the chief and the city police department every time there's a problem. If you're gonna pass it, then make the information available so that the citizens have the ability to complain directly to the person who is making the money. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that was it. Council, questions, answers?
Doug, if I can, I'd like, I don't think anyone in here can underestimate the value of these in our city, what they have brought. Again, I think Cliff touched on some good points and everything and all. They've done wonders for our city. This is the reason we are where we're at right now, without hotels, without everything else and all. But I do take that this is trying to sneak under the rug and all. This came up 3 meetings ago. It's been on the agenda for 3 meetings. It's been discussed at the last meeting before that, it was discussed as well and all. The administration was asked to bring back an ordinance. This is what we brought back. Nobody's trying to sweep anything under the rug, and all you gotta do is pick up the phone anytime, call and all. We've asked for input from council. We've asked for input from others, with these ordinances that was put out there. One person has called in, and gave some input on and all, and that's it. But no one's trying to, sweep this under the rug and pull the wool over your eyes or anything. So I just want to get that straight with you to start with, and we do see the economic impact that these have brought into our city, And again, you always have a little trouble with no matter what it is, whether it's residential households, whether it's the VRBOs, whether it's rentals or whatever and all. But it's been very limited for the most part and everything to, certain times, maybe a neighbor here or a neighbor there, and that's what we had to start at this 3 meetings ago and all. So I just wanted to clear that up, that, on that.
So we used to get emails like, been going out, these 2 meetings in particular.
I've never sent emails on anything on the agenda. It's on the agenda that goes out every meeting and all, and that's just.
Talking about just the agenda?
The agenda that Caitlin used to send out has not been sent out for these several meetings, these last 2 meetings.
Caitlin, is there?
There was no notification that we normally get, which is on an email.
I don't know that.
Those did not go out.
Like the agenda notifications?
Agenda notification.
Was that part of the Granicus
Well,
system?
we switched systems, what, 4 months ago now? May? Caitlin, do you have the capability of sending?
Heather?
So you no longer have the capability of, so for people in the room that don't understand what's going on, is Caitlin, our council clerk, used to be able to push agendas. So basically, if you signed up or asked Caitlin, she sends out, hey, the agenda's ready, and she pushes it to anybody who asked just as a courtesy. So in May, we switched to an upgrade, most features are upgraded, system, but it sounds to me, so now Caitlin, is that what there's no longer the ability to do that? But the agendas are still published. If you go to the so you have to go to the city website rather than getting an email, but under the new system, it doesn't sound like we have a way to push those agendas out. But the agendas are published, Caitlin, Fridays? So every Friday, you can go and look, and the city agenda is being pushed out on the city website that's accessible to anybody who wants to see it.
From the general public standpoint, we could get an email.
Well, Mr. Cliff, you're here quite frequently, and what I'm saying is this has been since May that this same mechanism has been followed. So it's not like, hey, we're going to talk about VRBOs, let's change our system and stop sending emails. That's clearly not what happened. And since May, it seems like we lost the ability to be able to do that. But for all of you to know, every Friday, probably around noon, by 5 on Friday, the agenda is pushed out on the city's website that any of you can look on there and see anything that's on the agenda.
Okay, council.
Now that we know, can we table this decision so that we can take it up at the next meeting and maybe have some people who oppose show up at the meeting?
So Doug, every time y'all ever done this before, that's when it fills up.
Yeah, and we pushed it.
This has all the smell of we're slipping it under the rug.
I've been doing this since 2013, dude. I tell you how many files and files I have on my computer.
Yeah.
This ain't nothing new. This ain't no secret. You ain't kicking the can down the road. We done. I'm one vote. But I've been working on it since 2013, and yeah, we have a handful of people that come in here that's got them, that's for them. We got 10,000 people out there that's tired of having a new neighbor every weekend. Well, I know, but that's another side of it, right? But that's what we hear about the new neighbor every weekend, right? And it's a balance, right? And I hate government. I hate telling people what you have to do, right? But I tell people when it affects your neighbor and neighbor's property, then that's when government gets involved, right? That's when you tell people that you can't do that because you're affecting your neighborhood, your other people. You're not affecting just yourself. And that's when government, and I hate making rules, but every rule has a reason it was made because somebody did something silly. So we're like, okay, we gotta make a rule now. Well, y'all didn't do anything silly, but your neighbors are tired of having new neighbors every weekend. And they can't get down to the road. And it's not you. I'm sure everybody in here, sister-in-law, they have great stuff. They have great people stay there. It's not everybody. But if you have no rules and no regulations, you can't help work on the people that are not acting correctly. Without documentation. You can't say, okay, we're just gonna make a rule for people to drive Fords, right? Or Chevys, right? You can make a rule for everyone, and we all abide by them. Council, and it's just me, it's my personal opinion, right? I'm just one vote up here, but I know I've been working on it since 2013, and I've been trying to get one adopted, because I hear all the complaints of everybody except the people that own them. Yep.
Yeah, so a couple words. You know, we keep hearing the comprehensive plan, the recommendation. There's a threshold that, well, there was no recommendation. There was an identified threshold from the comprehensive plan that you don't want to exceed, or they recommend not to exceed, but there wasn't a recommendation as to what to do. You know, to your terms, Doug, as you just stated, I don't see anything in this ordinance that would curb those issues right now. That's not already eligible to be enforced with our codes in place now, other than the on-street parking. Right. So, you know, if we want to have a list of data sets, and we've been at this council before, and I've sat right next to you, Doug, before talking about, you know, keen on data. You got to have the data, got to have the analytics. Well, we don't have that. I asked the chief last meeting. I don't know if he's still here. Do we have a mechanism in place to get that data to understand if there is a problem? And we get it. We hear it anecdotally. But where's the data? And we've sat up here and said, I can't make a decision without the data. We don't have that. So if we want to put something in place where there is an ability for registration, so you do have that data to where if you get a number of complaints, then it can be addressed, so be it. But I right now, as I see it, now let me ask you this too, administration. Does this also include hotels?
Hotels already have regulations because they operate under business
Hotels are
laws.
not short-term rentals.
And they
They're
pay
hotels.
different taxes. They pay property,
this is
property
strictly-
taxes on furniture, and they pay a lot of the different things.
So does everybody else.
They don't own a house, furniture in a house, they don't pay it because it's not considered a business, so they don't pay those taxes or those fees like a business would, like the Pearl does, or like.
So you're saying that a vacation rental's a business?
I'm saying they conduct it as a business.
You're not saying it's not a business? Because it's a
Supreme
business.
Court rules it's
Well, then
not.
all they have to do is get a
Supreme Court-
$25 privilege license and they're in business.
Like
Supreme
Supreme
Court-
rules it's not a business that you
Yeah.
can regulate.
And that's dealing with the use, Gary. That's not dealing with, it's what Josh is talking about, is it's being conducted as a building, as a business. What the court spoke on is the use. It's not, they view it as a residential use. So I'm just telling you, don't confuse your terms here. They're talking from a
didn't confuse
planning
my
and
term.
zoning as a,
So, I mean, if you're gonna call it a business and you're gonna tax it, I think the fee of $300 is just excessive. And, I was at the comprehensive plan thing, and one of the, what was his name? I don't see his name on here, but he said use that as a revenue thing to grab revenue from short-term rentals. And I just don't agree with, why are we singling out this business to take $300 a year out of per unit? I think that's excessive. And, you know, people have enough expenses running a business. I know I do. And with inflation standing at 20%, you're going to add this to on top of it as a pass-through? I think this number needs to be come down, I'd say $100 a year. And then who's going to inspect them? And how often are they going to, hold on, I'm talking. How often are they going to be inspected? Because I know right now I pay my privilege tax and I get inspected once every 4 years by the fire department. So how often is people going to be inspected? Y'all going to inspect 480 units a year?
we have 480 units.
What?
That 480 units is based on 39520 number, zip code.
Well, so I mean, so how are
So
you
whatever
going?
we have, you know, the initial thing is, yes, you know,
Mhm.
Who's gonna do it?
looking at putting it in through the fire department.
Looking at it, so you're proposing to tax your residents who are trying to run.
Hold on, Doug, can you have him come up to the podium?
We can do it either way, you know. Some
Mike, turn
people
your mic
use the-
on.
Some people use the fire department, some people use the building department.
Okay, but you haven't figured out how you're gonna do that, or how you're
We don't even know if it's gonna pass, you know.
But that is the reason for the fee, is to make sure that you have the staffing to deal with the paperwork and the regulation of those, including inspections.
But we need a plan on
So
how
you're
that's
saying you're
be-
gonna hire more firemen now, just to do inspections? That's what you just said.
That is not what I said, Gary.
You
I
said
was
you're
saying-
gonna need more people.
Gary, I'm not
to
here
do
to
these
argue with you.
inspections.
I'm not trying to argue with
I just want you to
I'm trying
justify the
give you-
tax. So I
Gary,
just
it's an
don't
administrative
understand.
fee. I'm not arguing with you.
Okay, well, I'll finish saying what I'm gonna say. I just think that this $300 fee on top of everything else that these business owners have, because they don't get a break on their taxes, they pay the full amount. They don't get any homestead exemptions on this, and
Okay, so your fee is 100. This is what, and I'm just gonna say this is what we've been asking, is for this type of feedback. This is your ordinance.
I just gave it to you.
What do you want? So you
Why
want
you didn't
100?
give us that 2
We've
weeks
discussed,
ago?
But
according to your
I don't
list,
have-
man,
Hey,
this is the
we're not,
fourth
hey
time we
guys,
brought this
we're not
up, and we've
arguing.
discussed
This
it.
is the
Why are you going
in
down
public.
that road? I should have
This
sent
is,
it to you.
this is the
today.
well, because we have to have, as I told y'all last meeting, I could have brought however many ordinances, drafts of ordinances that you guys wanted, could have all been in front of you tonight. But I did not receive any comments in order to give you guys any drafts. So had you would have sent me an email, called me, text me, whatever, say, hey, spit me out an ordinance that says $100 fee, I would have been glad to do that and send it to you so you would have had it in your hand. That's all I'm saying, is that's just to make things a little bit more productive.
That's why we have public hearings, so we do value the input of the citizens and the residents, so we can use that information to make their best decision, because we do represent them. So, I mean, according to you, Mayor, this is the fourth time we talked about it. Some of these things have been brought up multiple times, so they have been discussed.
And nobody's disagreeing. We're here for you guys to tell us what you
We
want
brought
in
what
your
you asked
ordinance,
for.
if you want an ordinance. That's what we are here for.
If you don't want it, vote it down. If you wanna workshop it, workshop it. If
I
you
just
wanna
don't-
vote it in tonight, vote it in.
I don't want
But don't
just to
tell
pass
us to bring
something
it
that says
back
pass it.
and sit here. And don't put any input in it for a month, and no input or anything.
We've had discussions
And
up
then-
here.
We've had discussions for years, Kyle. 7 years I've been on the council, we've had discussions, and nobody wants to bring it to a vote, because we get a few people that complain about it, and there's mainly people that own the,
Well, Josh, we passed it, and then you wanted it revoked,
at that time,
and you made the motion to revoke it.
because at that time, there was a legal issue in the paperwork, that's why we revoked it. So,
All right, what
and
else?
I wish I wouldn't have at this point.
What, I does say in here that the inspections, I done lost the dang gum thing.
The only thing Doug, that I'm, disagreement in is the high fee. I'd be okay with it $100, and, if we gotta track it, we gotta track it. We gotta be able to, see where we are with it.
So we can make a motion to amend it and pass it with that fee,
So,
if that's what we wanna
So,
do.
so we still haven't heard the plan on enforcing.
I mean, the plan of enforcement that I've heard is
It says in here that
to have
Meaning
another
who-
person in the code department or another person in the fire department, and this fee goes towards paying for that person's time and that person being there and doing this job. We're not gonna create a new position until we have this ordinance in place.
But,
I get that.
but,
We're not-
Gene, I wanna point out something. We attach a $50 fee to golf carts. And that, part of that fee was that the police department was gonna inspect those golf carts, or somebody.
No, 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 no,
that's
no.
not true at all.
Oh,
always
no?
by affidavit.
No, it's not.
No,
Yes, it
it's all
was.
by, no,
not.
absolutely not.
They
Absolutely
come
not.
in and sign an affidavit that they have all the safety equipment
did paperwork.
and everything that is required
And
by
prevent their
our
insurance.
ordinance.
That's it.
Nowhere's in there did we put that in there about they would inspect our golf carts. Nowhere.
In fact, we specifically took that out because we didn't want the liability.
But it was in there originally, and then we took it out.
No.
We didn't want our police department
Yeah,
assuming a liability of.
You
those
said what I
inspections.
needed to say. That's fine.
No, So, I mean, like I'm saying, we can either amend this ordinance as it is and amend the fee
Right.
down, which is fine. But it may not be enough to pay for the individual that we have to bring in to do this enforcement.
Then you take them
But
from
then we would have to just amend it in the future and increase the fee if that's the case.
Considering nothing
Or
in
we can
here,
not vote on it at all and table it and do a workshop, which we've done for 11 years now.
Yeah.
considering there's nothing in here that will curb what we have, that we don't already have in the book, that we can enforce. And if the concern is having a database, so then we know what you're dealing with, and then when there is a police dispatched, then, and it's the price of, as Mr. Nalbuck mentioned, you know, the business permit, then that gives you that ability. If it's truly, because there's nothing in here, other than which on-street parking, which should be addressed for everything, long-term rentals.
Right.
So there's nothing. So if the goal is to have the ability that if you have a small percentage that are not following our codes and our ordinances, that we know that that is, and then that can be addressed subsequently. But anything else, if it's just a database to enforce, then let's just go that route. Because I know there's not, and I think we asked the question last meeting, is what do we have on the books now? What do we have in terms of calls or complaints? And we don't have any data to back that up.
And I don't know if the police department will know what's a VRBO and what's not, either if they respond to a call, because there's no information on file saying that that's a VRBO that we're responding to for cars in the street, boat trailers in the street. They don't know that. They just know that something's in the street or they get a call, so.
That would have to be cross-referenced with
Yeah, but we have.
if he's registered.
Yeah, we have a call log that you can get a copy of it and you can cross-reference any complaint. I did that before when we had we had an issue downtown. You just go through the data and pick out the specific address and it pulls up the data from that. So there, yes, there is a tracking mechanism that can be used.
Can you have her
She won't-
step up to the
say,
podium?
Come up to the microphone, please. Identify yourself for the record.
311 Washington. So I just feel like obviously everybody's flustered because this has been a conversation that keeps going up. The citizens are definitely asking for there to be more tabling and more conversation because nothing seems concrete on both ends, which is respected. It's nobody's fault for that. But I think that to make such a bylaw or accepting an ordinance like this, the citizens also need to feel more comfortable with more information out there in the sense of we just had this conversation. Of course, everybody's going to go and talk about it, but maybe this will also encourage citizens to also express more of their views and kind of help navigate a more concrete plan of what we should do moving forward as a combined city. You know, we all have back and forth because everybody feels strongly about this whole situation. And I think this would totally minimize and everybody would leave from the situation a whole lot better. Cause I even know just what, I sit on zoning and planning and I have my own views on this topic. And then watching the council go back and forth about it, I feel a little unease. And I know from the outside looking in, everybody else is unease. And you just don't need all that. We don't. Like, as a city, we should be more united in what we're doing because everybody lives here. That's all. So.
And this is always gonna be a living document. We can change it at any time if it passes like it is now. And, if we don't do something probably tonight or next meeting, the next administration will be talking about it in 2 years again because there still won't be nothing done because government moves slowly, and that's why we're still here all these years later. I'd rather pass it. If we got problems, let's address them. We can come back and amend the ordinance at any time we see fit and move forward with it. But just to keep kicking the can down the road, because we're never going to make an ordinance going to satisfy everybody. Let's be quite honest. Somebody that owns it's not going to be happy. A neighbor's not going to be happy. There's going to be no perfect ordinance unless the ones that want the ordinance and we don't do it, they upset. The ones that own them and don't want an ordinance at all, they're going to be upset if we pass one. So it's a no-win really in the situation.
So the lowest lowest paid person in the city of Bay St. Louis makes $29 an hour, right? So we're business. City of Bay St. Louis is a business, right? So we do. We collect taxes. We collect property taxes. We collect sales taxes. We collect casino revenue. About 85% of that goes into public safety, fire and police, okay? So the rest of it we have to run the city off of, right? And we have to pay people, right? Over the past few years, we've had to increase people's pay to keep them, right? So we're a business. You don't go to Walmart and say, just give me a pack of Coke and I'm gonna go walk out the store. They'll go out of business. We need to continue to fund the city of Bay St. Louis. And if you're doing a business, if you're doing a transaction, I got a building permit for $180 to put a concrete slab in. Why wasn't it free? Could have been free, right? Why charge me? But I paid for it. So the taxes go back into the general fund revenue to pay people, right? And that's, to me, we're a business. The city is a business. And we have to maintain that, because if we don't maintain it, and all the VRBO residents that live out of town, and I raise your taxes that live here just to pay the bills. Is it fair to you? I mean, we do a great job with the money we have, right? But we have to make sure we continue to not give services away, charge for services, a nominal fee. But again, the lowest person in City of Bay St. Louis, by the time I give them PERS and their insurance, is $29 an hour. So if I gotta send 2 people out to do an inspection for an hour or 2 hours, they gotta come back and do a report, gotta file the paperwork, I might be a couple $100 in, right? So is that fair? Yeah. Come up. Name, please.
Holman Avenue. My question is that every single time that we rent out our place, there's taxes that are taken. Every single time.
Sales tax.
Yep. Every single time that we pay our bill every year, because it's a non-homesteaded exemption, that we pay those taxes. What are we saying when each of these properties presumably are non-homesteaded? So you're gaining an additional amount of revenue that way to pay that individual, whoever that is, to check the fireman or whoever. And if that's not enough money, then why did you come up with the 300 when we still haven't figured out who we're going to hire for this and how much that person's going to cost, right?
Yeah.
So my point is, you're starting here, or maybe you started higher, I don't know, but ultimately, let's say you start here, and then you add on, just like Josh was saying, hey, this isn't enough money, we need to find a person who does a more thorough job, whatever that is, because it's a living document. Why not go ahead and try and figure out that route, as opposed to starting here, making everybody, or half the room unhappy, as opposed to, let's start lower. If that's the objective, let's start lower and then figure out what the plan is to finance this. That's not enough, and then fundamentally be able to move forward.
Yep.
That's
Fair?
the question.
Yep. Thank you.
I would like to say, several years ago, we've been having this discussion on and on and on, and I suggested we do a $25 with the VRBO's the privilege tax, and I mean we had people in here that owned them. They didn't want to do it. Council, we didn't move on it, and a few years ago, as a contractor, what we do, we operate a business here in the city. We pay the privilege tax, and on top of that, I think we pay $100, $200 a year renewal, just to do business here in our city. Now, if we go to Gulfport, Biloxi, we've got to pay another tax on top of that to operate in their city. So, but when I look at the $300 per year, I take the side of what Mr. Hoffman said, that we can, and also Councilman Knobloch. I don't think we should start so high. We should do the privilege tax, come down to, I don't know, $50, $75, $100, and then work our way up. Just amend it when we see that we need to amend it, and raise it, we raise it. But I think we need to do the privilege tax and start somewhere in there, But, just like as a contractor, I think we started at $100. And, I don't know what we're up to now, Gary, I don't know, as contractors in the city.
Oh, it's at least, I think, 250, isn't it?
200?
250?
Josh, as contractors, you don't know right now?
No.
But I know we've raised it over the years, so, that's my stand on it.
So, one other question that I have, so once we so what we're here, with this document we do is declare these businesses, I mean, these VRBOs businesses, correct?
No.
So is the county gonna go in and start taxing all their furniture
It's
and?
not gonna make them a business now.
Mhm.
Gotta make them a
You said
business.
it's not gonna
Mike?
happen.
Well,
It's not making them a business.
I mean, that's
We're
the,
declaring them a business now.
We're not declaring them a business.
Not declaring them a business.
yeah, I mean, yeah, we agree. I mean, it's, the damn Supreme Court said they're not a business, right? But we all,
But they collect taxes.
we all have our
Sales tax.
ways of talking about it, right? So we say they're not a business and we get sued and we go to Supreme Court. Supreme Court said, I already said they're not a business, so why are you here again, right? We understand that, and I argued both sides of it, quite honestly. We need a mechanism to know who they are. We need a mechanism to really control, to access who they are, and call them when we need them.
Well,
We
no,
need-
this
We
is,
need bad actors, I know, we need bad actors to be identified, and that way we can do something about them, right? And we can argue about it, and I understand that we all have a different opinion on it, right? But again, when you start negatively impacting your neighborhood, that's when government gets involved.
That's with a reasonable means of doing an application, and then that way we can better identify
That's
the
what I'm saying,
bad
we can start,
actors.
we have a
Without putting,
database.
without putting some of these regulations.
Right. Ma'am?
Nikki Moon, 233 Cary Court. I do have a short-term rental on Demontleson. Out of that fourplex, 2 of us have short-term rentals. Is it a business? Yes. Is it a moneymaker? No, breaks even. But it provides a great service, and I think it's needed. We have way more than 400 short-term rentals. I won't tell you what I found out because it would scare you. But how we find them is going to be the biggest challenge. How we get them to the table of submitting an application is going to be a huge challenge. Do I think it's worth it? Yes. And I have reviewed many of these documents that Heather has put together, that Sandy Robert was involved with and Kevin was involved with. I've seen them too over the past 10, 12 years. I do believe we need some kind of an ordinance. I think 300 is probably high, I agree. I think perhaps you might want to consider it based on square footage. Why should someone with a one-room cottage of 700 square feet pay the same as me with 1250, or the same as somebody on the Jordan River with 4,000 square feet? I think they're very different, and I think they should pay differently. My biggest reason for trying to put these folks to get their feet to the table and get them signing, because I know we have a lot of folks out there that are not legitimate, that are not paying their taxes, that are probably getting a homestead exemption and then just doing this on the side. You're not getting the sales tax, and we for tourism are not getting that 2% marketing tax. And the day we continue to lose that, that 450,000 that Bay St. Louis or Hancock County contributed to coastal Mississippi will start to go down. But if we continue to put some feet to this and have that 2% collected along with your sales tax of 7%, then we're going to bring up those marketing dollars and continue to bring in more business to our area. So while I have a short-term rental, I should be against it. I'm not against it. I feel we do need some kind of something to hold us accountable.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I can see you. Do I want to see you? All right, let's wrap it up.
Regarding how to get them to the table, Kathleen Monty, 105 Sycamore Street. And throughout the country, there have been other cities that have tackled this. You might want to consider what some of those cities have done, which is do a grace period of the next 60 days. You register and it's this amount. And after that, it goes up. And then if you are operating after that, you're not in compliance, we shut, you know, you've got your ordinance and you fine people on a daily basis, whatever y'all decide to fine them.
That's an up to amount, that's gonna be at the discretion of the court when they hear the case. And that is how most fines work in the legal world, it's an up to amount, it's not a set amount of 500 per day. The judge could make it 25 per day or 50.
All right, so let's, one of the things I probably would like to go ahead and clarify. So we do have inspections in here, but we talk about building department inspections. That's who's gonna do this, or are we gonna, today, it just talks about building department and, inspections.
We would like to combine it with the fire department that does our commercial rates. And that way we've got one person pretty much maintaining all of our inspections for this. Again, they get that training through the state fire marshal and everybody and move on from that. If we need to go through the building department, we can hire someone in the building department to do it as well.
Okay. All right, so we can update this ordinance to include who's gonna be doing inspection? To be more definitive. Right now, it just says,
Doug, if he's gonna update it, then I would add $100 per unit fee.
We just amend this
I would,
300.
I mean, the inspection,
yeah.
so.
Do we need to
You need to
clarify?
like give your, I do not, no, you do not. I mean, that is, you say that there's an inspection, and that is something that the administration needs to figure out how to do it. Because if the fire doesn't work, if you have a shortage of a fireman, which we have seen happen, I mean, there's a lot of different things that can happen that you need the flexibility that if you need somebody that maybe is not the fire department, maybe it's an item that you specifically need the building department, you need to give yourself that flexibility.
Okay. So where in the ordinance, and I'll put an inspection there, and it really doesn't really define that. So one caveat, right, says that it talks about max capacity. One of the last sentences, that capacity shall not be increased by subsequent construction of an addition to the structure covered by a permit or by construction of any other structure located on property without inspection and approved by building official. That's the only building official in there. Right, so that's kind of where, who is,
Well, what you're talking about, I think.
right. Is there another place in there that
No,
says
you're
will be
talking about
inspected?
the capacity, so that's
Correct.
meaning if you have a 2-bedroom and then you just go to
Right,
add a building,
but-
I mean, all it's saying is you have to go follow code and you have to go through the building
Correct.
department, you can't just go add a bedroom, which,
Okay.
I mean, that,
Right, so where else in there does it talk about who is going to inspect, or how we're gonna inspect it? And that's what I'm trying to find.
oh, I read this earlier.
I know, I've looked through it, and I just, if I put inspection in my search bar, it doesn't come up with a who.
Because it just says that, it just says inspection, it does not go into,
Well,
it doesn't go into that.
Defined which
it
one.
really doesn't, again, the only inspections I have talks about the increased square footage, and it goes down to properties may be subject to inspection at registration on subsequent renewals unless immediate inspection is required.
Correct,
So that's where it says we will inspect them there.
correct.
It's on page,
And that was going back from, I think, the last go-around when, you know, a year or so ago of y'all specifically addressed that to leave that vague. And that is why that was there, because I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, we originally had more details in
Okay.
inspection, but we did not want to strap that or to cause an undue burden on the citizens.
okay. So it is defined or clarified.
So
Alright.
would there be an affidavit, or would there be an inspection for each registration before they can operate?
The way it is written is that
Maybe.
it may be, because, I mean, depending on how many of these things, if you get to where there's 600 or 1,000 of them, it might not be feasible. It might be in every other year. It might be, you want to have the ability that if somebody's calling and complaining, to go in there. And so the ordinance was written with that flexibility to allow the administration to figure out what needs to be done. And as Josh says, you know, every ordinance that you have in the city should be a living, breathing document. They should be revisited. They should need to see, because you can never predict what all issues you're gonna need 100% when you draft an ordinance. I wish we could, just isn't the case. Life changes.
Okay, what else? Who's, yeah, the penalty by, permit may be denied, suspended, or revoked for any of the following reasons. We'll have someone managing these complaints, Mr. Mayor, or? Mr. Mayor?
But I'm sorry.
We'll have someone managing the VRBOs for the complaints.
Yeah.
Says 3 or more notice violations issued within 12 months may conduct or,
Yeah.
short-term rental constitute a violation. So we'll have somebody that needs to be in a database, and if a
Legit,
complaint
right.
comes in, somebody will
Yes.
tag it, and that way, if
Be
they come
part.
back in for inspection, they got 10 complaints,
Correct.
and there'll be discussion on,
If the police is called, then they can check with them as well to see if it's a legit complaint or, you know, is it just a neighbor?
right. All right, so there will be a defined database with someone managing when they reissue permits.
Well, they'll each have a file.
Yeah.
of some sort.
Mr. Rizzo's good with databases.
And
Yeah, you-
spreadsheets.
Basically using the same software as the privilege license.
Will this work on the new software you're getting for building department?
Okay.
Or an Excel spreadsheet?
You'll be able to kick it out to Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, that's easy. All right, what else, council? So I've heard Mr. Noblock would like to revise the dollar amount to 100. Is that sufficient enough to manage the inspections, paperwork, as you see fit?
You won't know that until it goes off the ground. I mean, they can come up with a performer or something and say, hey,
How long's it
how
gonna
many
take?
I mean, if you got 400 rental units, you only work, 200 and something days a year, how many are you gonna do a day?
Right. Do at least 2.
That's just not gonna happen.
All right, anybody else got a proposal?
We want to put that privilege tax in there too?
I think that's,
I would,
I
yeah,
think
I would
just
not
this-
recommend the
Yeah,
privilege
just
tax.
this one, just $100 fee, until you can gauge how busy you're gonna be. I mean, cause does it need a yearly inspection? I doubt it. Most people will keep their properties online.
yeah, I mean,
They're not gonna rent some won't, but 90% of these business owners, they're in the business of making money, so.
all right, so amend that to $100. Anybody got a heartburn with that?
Nope. No.
$4,100. Nope. All right, any other changes we'd like to make? I need a motion from council. We want to move forward.
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Salvo.
Second.
Second, Mr. Noblock. Any further discussion? Vote the motion.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-1. As amended, please. Thank you. All right, next item, Swift Grant Administrator. We've been rolling his boat and rolling his boat.
Can I suggest a 60-second recess so we can let some folks out of here?
No, y'all can't go. Heck no. We just getting started.
Looks like a lot of people knew about it.
Well, a lot of them, yeah, she did. This is it. It does go all the way to Lakeshore. No, I could have her do that. I know, I'm just saying, there's no way Goth Green Earth, you're gonna get 800 people. If we had 200, we could look at it. Right, but you're gonna teach them. Okay, anyway, I didn't wanna bring that up to them, I wanted to make sure you could see it.
50, 51, 52, 53,
It's lean, baby.
54. No, I just knew they were, I want them to have discussion before we vote on it. Vote on it, then discussions. Where'd Riso go?
I couldn't afford $100. I shouldn't be in business.
All right, next thing is the Swift Grant Administrator. A lot of talk about this, a lot of frustration today, actually, or not, I talked to a lady from Jackson County, has been fighting this since 2018. Same problems, basically, and it's, you know, it's just the damn way the process is set up for the state of Mississippi, it's just crazy. We're talking about going ahead and approving a grant administrator tonight. But Mr. Riso, you explain what you told me.
So unless you have the funding secured in that 200, is it CFR? 200 CFR, you cannot contract with someone contingent upon, so if y'all wanted to hire somebody, you need to accept that it's a general fund expense. Because the current grant agreements for the two houses have not been amended by FEMA yet. It's in the process, we've requested it, to allow for the grant administrator up to 5% is what it allows for. Once that's amended, that's where the funding source is. So you can't, unless you want to pay for it out of your general fund, you can't hire a grant administrator until we know that the grant agreements have been amended. Again, we've submitted that. They have responded to us, I think it was today or yesterday.
Yeah, and that's the deal here is I truthfully feel like we're in the home stretch. MEMA's been great. They've stayed on top of this. They've contacted us. At this point, I almost think they have our council meetings plugged into their own agendas because, you know, they make sure to update us. So I don't want to do, nor can I recommend doing anything that's going to mess up something when we are hopefully so close to being done with this process. And I think we're already, what, 30 days? 45 days, maybe? I know, I couldn't remember when we submitted it. But FEMA's aware that this is time sensitive, so, and as I told you last council meeting, even if we go in and select somebody, there's nothing we can do or they can do until we get this grant amendment.
So they would basically have to do the same thing. If we hypothetically approved the administrator, they would just be going in requesting the same thing we're requesting.
Well, they wouldn't be requesting anything because we've already requested.
I mean, they would be asking for the same thing if they would go say, hey, I'm not getting paid, so I need you to pay me.
Well, I don't think they can legally do that, but, I mean, they would be making the same calls that
that's what I'm
I'm
saying. They'd be
making
doing the same
to
thing we're doing
MEMA,
right
or
now.
I don't even have to make them anymore. You generally just sends a message or
They send
sends
an
it to,
email literally saying,
yeah.
hey, want to give you an update. We have not heard back from FEMA yet. We expect it to be shorter than 90 days. We got it. I mean, they sent that either yesterday or today.
Just this evening, I've seen it come through. I looked at my emails.
And you've all seen the letters, you see what's
No.
been requested. I
Emailing
mean,
it today.
And
I
we
just,
do know
I just
for
read
sure,
one later
the other thing that we have learned, maybe in the 8th,
Riso.
7th, 8th? Around the, I'm sorry, around the 7th or 8th, I mean, we did get confirmation from MEMA saying, you must follow the Mississippi and federal procurement laws. So the,
per region
the-
4.
what Louisiana's, the process Louisiana's using is not applicable to what we, because the grant agreement is very specific, and that's what we've been kind of going back and forth with, saying, how are they doing it, why can't we do it? But
And
they
so-
basically gave us a hard answer saying, you will follow federal and state procurement.
And so we've also asked some follow-up questions, like to, you know, what to these companies, what have you done outside of Louisiana? Because we need to know that. Are you administering these things anywhere else? So we're making sure to do our due diligence too, so that we're basically just sitting on go when FEMA says, here's your award, it's been approved, you know, your grant agreement, you guys are ready to roll forward.
And right now, the ask for the amendment isn't just for the grant administrator, it's also for the additional fees to raise the homes each
Yeah, that's
homeowner's
it,
seen a
for
$30,000
replace
increase or
inflation
so.
to deal with the old cost. It includes money for engineering because the original thing, it had engineering costs for the design, but it did not have engineering costs for the actual construction phase of the project. And the relocation is another one that was not considered. So it'll allow some money in there for the homeowners so that they can go pay. They don't have to come out of their pocket for a hotel room whenever they are displaced from their home for however long it may be. I think that was a couple thousand. We have not received any sort of problem with that. We have asked that question and nobody has, no, everybody has said that it should be fine.
Okay.
Now, granted, I don't think we will know that officially until we get something from FEMA, but at this point, we've received zero indication that there would be a problem. And the general consensus, hold on,
the phone.
Tammy? You're correct, absolutely. And the general consensus is that on this particular project is I think FEMA is just looking at getting people's homes out of harm's way. So it's not as stringent as some of the other cost analysis, cost benefit analysis that they do, because in here, I think they're more focused on just raising people's homes.
Okay. Thanks. Short one, less than 2 minutes.
3 minutes, I think.
Identify yourself,
3
please.
o'clock, all by myself.
Identify yourself. Identify yourself, please.
Me, all by myself.
Identify yourself.
Oh, identify myself. You know me.
I know,
Tammy
but
Curtis
not everybody
Guy,
else does.
3100 Roberson Road. You would think I would know that by now. Okay, before I get started, I do want to say last council meeting, I left here kind of spirit broken and discouraged. But there was a bittersweet moment with Mike Rousseau. And I acknowledged you in an email thanking you, Mike, because he presented the bigger vision with this. This has been so exhausting and so laborious for everybody. But the bigger vision, obviously, with who you spoke with Stacy, is that if we can crack this egg, right, it opens that omelet up for everybody in Mississippi. And I think that's everybody in this room, that's what we want. Okay, we want all of our Mississippians to be able to become out of harm's way, huh?
Potentially annually.
Yes, yes. Okay, but anyway, what you said gave me hope. So with that being said, I decided, because I've had an avalanche of people around the state that I've held close to my vest reach out to me. Stacy is one of them. She's one of many that have reached out to me to get information that do have NFIP insurance and are severe repetitive loss and repetitive loss. I've also had other city officials, different city officials, reach out to me. So with that being said, I want you to indulge me just a little bit to speak to Mike's grander vision that he projected, and I agree with. So, before I forget, the turmoil that Stacy speaks of is ours too. This has been very taxing. So for decades, the entire Gulf Coast of America has weathered many disasters, but our country rose up and got it right. This insistence regarding these grants has been the opposite. The state of Mississippi can't seem to get it right. Therefore, the confusions and finger pointing and chaos from all four corners, creating hardship, exhaustion, and despair from citizens, residents, and now our honorable servicemen and women. This disaster has become a disaster. I urge this council to now not only help our home as well as April Bird's, but the many saying, somebody make this right. I implore one or all of you to motion, second, and vote the majority to nominate a professional grant admin. Now, I'm gonna stop. I know what everybody's saying about we don't have the funds yet, but we can still identify one. Even at a minimum amount of restitution to teach you, us, me, FEMA, and MEMA to streamline and make this right for many to take advantage of as soon as possible. You bring in need of engineers, advisors, grant writers, etc. when the city needs dictate it. This is one of those times. We can either be the standard bearers of this historical effort that is pregnant with opportunity, or we can let it slide away. So with that being said, I'm going to read the statement from Stacy Boritz. She's in Ocean Springs. When she started this, she was active military in the Air Force. Since then, she's retired as of 21, but she is still on contract with the Air Force as an instructional systems specialist. So she's a busy lady and a fierce lady. Okay, this is from her. I would like to express my deep frustration and concern regarding the FMA and SWIFT current grant process for my property located at 3108 Magnolia Lane, Ocean Springs, Mississippi. As a military member who purchased this home in January 2015, I have experienced over 8 floods over the past 9 years, causing significant emotional and physical distress, as well as a constant state of chaos with a never-ending cycle of damage and repairs. Despite my repeated efforts to seek assistance since 2018 from various agencies, including the Jackson County Planning Office, MEMA, and FEMA, I have met with little success. Upon research, I discovered that the state had not submitted a request for a grant through the FMA program since 2009, despite being one of the highest flood states. This lack of action by the state of Mississippi is unacceptable, especially considering that multiple grants have been approved and delivered to other states, making it clear that funding was available but not being pursued, even when homeowners asking for assistance, which is not only a burden to them, but also to taxpayers whose money goes to support FEMA efforts. From 2018 to 2022, I did not get any traction for assistance for a grant. Then I received a letter directly from FEMA saying since I had a severe repetitive loss property, I was eligible for the FMA SWIFT current grant. I contacted the Jackson County Planning Floodplain Manager and let her know I wanted to participate in the grant. I was working as a contractor overseas with the Air Force at this time and was told the process was going to be fast, so I procured a pre-approval. Months and months rolled into years with uncertainty and no clarity on what was going on in the grant process. The negligence of both Jackson County and MEMA in processing the SWIFT current grant is deeply concerning. The lack of effort dedicated to this program or inexperience of the state with processing grants has left me in a perpetual state of demolition, cleanup, and construction, which has taken a significant toll on my mental and emotional well-being. I want to stop right there and inject. This is a woman that retired from the Air Force, and this has taken an emotional toll on her. The grant process has been emotionally and physically taxing and disheartening, as I had to constantly inject myself to try to get information and ensure the grant has been pushed forward. For example, I was told by Jackson County Planning Office that all the paperwork FEMA required had been submitted to MEMA. However, when I spoke to MEMA, they said they did not have any of the required paperwork. This is just one example where lack of communication between agencies has caused significant delays in the grant process. In my attempts to get information, I was told, quote, and I've had my own series of messages like this. I was told, quote, your phone calls are not helping, end quote, and quote, again, I do not have any update. FEMA's working with us quite a bit on the grant daily, and no timeline has been discussed. When they ask for more info or details, I work on it diligently, and then I continue to wait for further instructions from them. If there's a time frame or any update, I will send those details promptly to you. In the meantime, for time management's sake, that will be the next response, end quote.
Okay.
Which made me and representing me in this grant process, I turned directly to FEMA, which I finally did get some help.
Okay.
I'm almost through, Doug.
Almost, come on.
Okay. In addition, I have 2 more paragraphs. In addition to these communication issues, I've also encountered inconsistencies and contradictions regarding the valuation of my property. The lengthy and convoluted grant process has taken a significant toll on my mental and emotional well-being, as well as all the other homeowners who are waiting for assistance. I have had to make the ultimate sacrifice in December of 23 and move my family to include my unborn grandchildren out of the state to the health concerns of living in an SRL and the uncertainty of a grant timeline. Additionally, I'm aware of participants who have passed away during this timeline. Despite these challenges, I continue to advocate for the finalization of the FMA SWIFT current grant and the provision of assistance to homeowners in Mississippi who are at risk of flooding. I urge the relevant authorities to take immediate action to finalize the grant process, streamline the process for future participants, and provide the assistance that is so desperately needed to homeowners in Mississippi.
Ma'am, thank you. Yep, all right, so we'll continue on, and it's amazing to hear her stories. It's kind of what we have, and it's, you know, no fault of any one particular, it's just the mess the process is. It's just a mess. We need to work on the MEMA side of it, or FEMA, whoever's the.
FEMA.
So, we have 3 identified. Yeah, I mean, you got my list. I mean, was the Pennsylvania and the other 2. So, I mean, that's it.
Well, and I would strongly encourage
Right.
Ms. Curtis to not reach out to these administrators
No.
that are currently sitting in limbo, not knowing if they are going to be awarded a contract. So,
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Project updates. Mr. Shinichi. No, ma'am. We're gonna wait to get
FEMA's answer
about funding the grant administrator.
Okay, I think we have one item that does require some action tonight. This is a MOST grant application, so this is Mississippi Outdoor Stewardship Grant. This is what you were awarded last year for Bayou LaCroix Phase 2, for a bulkhead and a low-level pier on that canal on the north side of the boat launch. So what we've identified on this would be to continue with the downtown improvements. We have the ramp at Almond Avenue, which provides ADA access down to the beach. So this application would provide for a low-level pier across the sand down to the shoreline for ADA access to the shoreline and to the beach. So it'd be pretty much built at sand grade. We're looking to do one of these with the county at Washington Street as well. So this application, I believe, was for $500,000, and any match that would be required could be Tylen's grant in the future.
So how do we build this? I'm just kind of interested in how, I know people are putting pads down to build access, ADA access, right? But is there any resiliency that you build this so it don't wash away with a high tide, or how does it, an idea, what's your idea about it?
Yeah, so the way we're gonna do it is, it's gonna be pile supported. The timber piles will be driven into the sand.
Okay.
And then also, but the deck is gonna be just about at the sand level. So it's gonna be maybe 8 to 10 inches, maybe a foot, depends on how much the sand moves, but it'll be low level, so any storm surge or inundation will cover it.
Get above
So
it.
you don't have all that wave action and everything, so it's gonna be a low level pier. And then the boardwalk, or it'll encompass the fire pit. So right there at Almond, we have a fire pit on the beach, and that's been there for several years. That's also pile supported, so it's made it through several hurricanes. So we'd encompass that, have some seating areas, and then go out to a platform, low level platform that would be at the shoreline. It's kind of hard to get it in the water all throughout the year, but it'll be low level as well. And then there'll be a concrete maintenance ramp about halfway between the beach and the fire pit, so that the county crews can access it with their equipment to clean it, things like that. So it's gonna be a permanent structure.
Okay.
And when
Yeah.
you say access, they'll be able to go over it to get on each side of the.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been looking at different ways of doing this, and I just wasn't sure what to.
And so you wanna pay for this with Tidelands funds?
But there's a match
I
required.
mean, aren't we wanting to use that to fix the harbor?
But this is gonna be for future. We're also requesting Tidelands funds for that, and also go make the funds for.
The way this is worded is it's using the phase 1 part at Almond Street, which was donated, plus phase 2, which is the boardwalk, as the local match. And that's all coming from Gulf Coast Restoration Front and the original donation of Almond. So there is no local cash.
We're not gonna have to put
Match.
up anything?
No local cash.
The same thing we had.
The
to
way
buy
it's
in
worded,
Craw.
same way we're doing Bayou LaCroix, we put that 1.3 million that we did phase 1 in as our local match. And we didn't have to come up any cash for 150.
is this insurable, and/or are we having any idea what it would be now?
it would end up being a FEMA project.
Again, it's one of them projects we've talked about for a long time, trying to get, guess you call it feet in the water. You know, for the handicapped, disabled and all, it gives them an opportunity to enjoy the water and the beachfront and all as well.
The most grant wants to pay, the things they want to do is put people access to water, sort of like a Tidelands. But I mean, so there's certain types of projects it can do. So it won't do the boardwalk, but it can do the access, ADA access to the water. So it's just a matter of
So we're
funding
just,
mechanism.
we're just putting this in the queue, approving it now, and we'll,
You don't know, you probably don't know
Submit the
until next
application.
summer.
It'll be
We
next
don't
year
know,
before we
and,
find
and,
out.
and won't even, you know, this is one of those things, if we get lucky to
we
get
do
it,
it, if
we're
we,
very
we get it
fortunate.
awarded, we do it or we don't do it. It's just,
Correct.
we're not tied
Just to
to it.
submit the application.
Yeah.
If you don't get the application, you're definitely not getting.
No, but we're not tied to it.
How much that gonna cost us in
Definitely.
engineering fees to make this application?
To make the application,
Not that we've
Well-
only, it's a couple hours worth of work to submit it.
Okay.
It's an online submittal, I mean, there's no, it's a,
and the
Not an
application should
extensive
be
application.
attached. What's being submitted should be attached, the draft.
Yes.
It's online, but
All right, what else? Anybody got more questions on this? Motion? Or questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the most grant application for the Almond Avenue Beach Access ADA low-level pier.
Motion, Mr. Hoffman.
second.
Second, Mr. DeSalvo. Any more discussions? Vote to motion.
Aye.
Aye.
Right. Nay.
Motion, aye, motion passes 5-1.
All right, thank you for that. We had another item on our agenda, or on my report, but I think it was a carryover from last month for the dredging at the harbor. We're still waiting on the permit to get that worked out before we submit that advertisement, so we don't need any further action on that. And I believe on the consent agenda is the pickleball court.
Yeah, 48.
If y'all have any questions on that, then I could address that.
Yeah, thank you.
So what's that change order? That, I was reading it, and so it's covering, for Moran to do more lighting.
Lighting and sidewalks and the bench.
So then when you mean lighting, you mean poles, so it's shining down on the.
Right.
on-
Perimeter lighting. for
And
the
what about
pickleball court.
fencing?
That was included in change order one.
Yeah,
Original.
Yeah. So this will be a complete court
You
where,
better exercise. You don't have no fences up, you exercise more.
that's what I say.
yeah,
And
phase
so,
one,
Y'all gonna put a rubber coating on there like?
it's an acrylic coating
Okay, good.
that the Pickleball Court Association recommends.
Association. Pickleball Association. What else, Mr.?
That's all I had unless you have any specific questions for me.
Oh, well, one other one, how's that, Sienna Lane clean out doing?
It's going well in certain sections. We are finding a lot of more sediment in some sections that needs to be removed. So we're working through some of the permit requirements and restrictions with DMR, meeting with the property owners and kind of, going through some of their concerns.
Are they digging?
They're digging, yeah, they're digging, they're de-snagging, they they've cleaned out about 800 feet of ditch so far. Access, they're still working through, we're trying to get access to everything, but, it's really creating a nice path for the city to get in there in the future and keep it maintained.
Good.
So, I think it's gonna work out well. A few little bumps and ditch that we have to work out. We're getting there.
All right, thanks, sir. City clerk's report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
Motion to approve docket of claims 24-042 dated August 2024 in the amount of $2,206,922.31. I haven't received any comment on it, but you'll notice there was a lot of transfers at 1.6, I think, was all us moving between funds, paying
Why are you
things,
doing so
payroll.
much moving?
Well, it's not, if you look at them, a lot of it was tax money that was received that we have to come into our general fund, and it has to go, like library money
Yeah, I
or
understand
road and
that.
bridge, things like that. Also payroll things that we're moving, basically reimbursing the general fund for. So those are all expected.
Payroll things? I'm sorry.
So if you,
Utility fund and.
utility fund.
Oh, yeah, I got you.
general.
We
Okay.
pay the payroll out of here, now we gotta reimburse it and charge it to where it should be charged.
And I didn't send you an email, just long-term. Can we look at how many vehicles we have bought in the last year? I mean,
Yeah.
vehicles, we buying
And
more
then-
and more vehicles and we keep adding, somebody.
We do, but, but
Yeah.
Well, and also keep in mind
we've got
too,
40 in the, Little Round, dealing with this, Friday, we were talking yesterday? We got about 40 vehicles in the police department, more than half are 10 years plus old.
Right.
So those are things we're looking at.
well, and also keep in mind, I know for me, sometimes it feels like we're buying double because you'll approve them and then you also approve the lease purchase.
Right.
So sometimes I think we see them more, so we're thinking, but it's
That's why this is what we bought this year.
Are they
I
still,
mean,
are they still far out on lead times now, or are we getting them,
I think it depends on what you're ordering.
I mean, they're looking to find what's available. And that, again, we're talking about how they find out. Some of these dealerships will call around and say, I've got a police unit on the lot. Are y'all looking? You know, so it's kind of word of mouth. They start passing things around. And the same thing, if they find out on the used trucks for Public Works, if we find out the Fastenal Company, I think it's Wheels Inc. or something, you know, then it's, oh, can we get a used truck for cheap?
But like the days of looking at state contracts, I don't think we've really been able to do that.
It's been hard.
Yeah, because you're not finding state contract prices.
so these vehicles are 2020s and 2021. Is that right?
Are they new vehicles?
Which ones?
No.
There's one motorcycle.
Three
in the-
Dodge Rams, says 2020 Dodge Ram and one 2021 Dodge Ram. Is that a
That's
typo?
Fastenal. No.
Dodge-
Which ones are you looking at?
Those are trucks. Those are the trucks.
Yeah, this is the lease
Yeah,
purchase.
That's the trucks, okay.
Yeah.
He's looking at the consent agenda.
Yeah.
Yep, that was on the, okay, so those are the 3 trucks. 4 trucks we're buying for.
Correct.
Fastenal.
Well, they're already purchased. We've got them.
That's what
But
I'm
that's just the
saying,
lease
so-
purchase
Those are the
piece.
same ones that we purchased.
Yeah, that's what
That's
sometimes
gotta come
it
back
looks like
to
it's
y'all.
repetitive and you're seeing these,
Yes.
because you are, but every one of them, if you're lease purchasing, you
Right.
essentially are seeing it at
Twice.
least twice, if not.
Mike, why are we leasing these vehicles when we're sitting on huge amounts of cash in the general fund?
Big chunk of that is we need our cash to run these projects that we're doing. So,
I mean, these are almost 5.5%, 6% interest on these vehicles. So what's the amount of debt service we have?
so we would have to basically, a lot of the projects we're doing, and that's what we've had workshops on projects, is how are we gonna cash flow the projects? Cause we gotta front the cash and wait to get reimbursed. So, especially the bigger projects we've had conversation on, but, you know, it's a matter of, we're either gonna need to go get some type of short-term loan for projects, or keep our cash and pay for cars over time. So, again, that's up to y'all how you wanna do it, but, you know, like I've said for the last year plus, is we've got so many projects that we're cash flowing, that we've gotta watch our cash, especially as we go towards the end of the year. When sales tax, property taxes are not coming in, you know, last quarter.
Discussion as well. All right, any more discussions on the consent agenda? Motion to approve consent agenda, motion.
Consent agenda, we-
Made docket.
Docket.
Claims 24-042, dated August 20, 2024, in amount of $2,206,922.31.
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Salvo.
Second.
Second, Mr. Hoffman. Any discussion? Vote the motion.
Aye.
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 Aye, motion passes 6-0.
The second one is just a special docket of claims, 24-043, in the amount of $400,000 dated August 20, 2024. And that is basically transferring general fund dollars to the capital fund for projects, which we did last week as well.
All right, motion to approve
Well, 2
special
weeks
docket
ago.
claims 24-043, in the amount of $400,000.
Motion.
Mr. Hoffman.
Second.
Second, Mr. Lewis. Vote the motion.
Aye.
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 Motion passes 6-0. Anything else, Mr. Risto? Consent agenda.
The change order, is there more money in the bond to pay the change order?
Are we talking about Moran Hauling?
Yes.
No, there is not.
Okay.
But if you notice, I put those items on purpose. The donation, accept the anonymous donation, and then right behind it, the change order for the exact same dollar.
Yep.
And that's phase 2 of the pickleball court.
Alrighty, any items on the consent agenda we need to remove? Everything's good? Any motion?
Motion.
Motion approved consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Hoffman, second Mr. Salvo. Any discussion? Vote to motion.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0.
Hey, Doug, on the, council business, I know we talked about the Swiss Grand Administrator, but
I zoomed on by that, didn't I?
I don't think we were able to present if we had anything.
Oh, yeah, I didn't, I'm sorry.
So I just wanted to bring one thing up. Chief, would you mind coming up to the podium for a second? I know we have an issue around town in general, not just in Old Town but there are certain areas probably it's a little worse than others, but apparently we're getting a more and more overnight homeless activity at the lot next to the Texaco station, a lot across the street from the Texaco station, maybe next to Anthony's, in between the little house, over towards the woods that are across from that area, kind of behind the building on the corner and the Blue Rose. So it's just a concern for those areas, and there was one other area they brought up. Let me see if I can pull it up in my email real quick, because I'm not remembering. And by the along the side of the AT&T building on St. John, kind of behind that Texaco area. So all in that Main Street, Dunbar, St. Francis corridor, right in that little section between St. John and. So have y'all had any calls or noticed any issues there that police department's aware of?
We get calls from time to time. Obviously, anytime public calls us, we're gonna go out and respond. Sometimes we're fortunate enough with repeat violators. They end up sometimes breaking into some property, either trying to find shelter, food, or because they don't have anything better to do. So we've had a few arrested on felonies that were a continual problem, even though overall it's a permanent problem, not only in the Bay, but in every city.
In every city, yeah.
So keep letting us know what areas. We will respond out. People can lawfully be in those areas, just depends on circumstances. But a lot of times when we come out and our presence is made known, sometimes they do feel uncomfortable. So they will typically move to another location when that happens. As far as crimes, it just hit and miss on that. Typically it's a citizen who feels uncomfortable because somebody's in the parking lot, but they see them, they can tell they've been sleeping out in the wood line or the property line. The best way to handle it is just to keep us informed. We'll keep going out. We've had problems up by the cemetery, over at the Catholic Church from time to time. We'll have them camping out in there. So it's a ongoing issue in society and all the towns, but we're not ignoring it. Please call us, and we will come out for you guys.
Thank you, Chief.
And we can step up the patrol, obviously, with those name locations and
Yeah.
start checking independently.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I had to.
All right, yeah, I'm sorry, I missed.
No, that's all right.
that. Mr. Reed, council? Double.
Yeah, just one quick thing, Mayor. I noticed this morning on Chantilly, they must have done a lot of trimming on the lines, and there's just a lot of debris piles. I'm assuming they come back pretty quick turnaround and get that picked up.
On the power
It was
line
on
trimming?
It was on Chantilly Terrace.
Yes, if it's them doing it, they'll come back
Yeah.
and get it.
Okay.
They usually get it before they even leave the neighborhood.
Yeah, I saw it. It's most of the houses there. I just want to make sure they get that picked up.
Yeah, they were cutting in Old Town today, and they were actually riding along in the truck, and the guy was using a pole saw, and they were dropping the branches into the truck, so he didn't have to go pick them up off the road. He just dropped them right into the back of the truck.
Efficiency.
Yes. Yeah.
You talking about our guys?
Yes.
You talking about power company?
It had to been. I mean, it was. Yeah, I mean, it was on every property.
Yeah, 'cause I don't think we're down that area. I don't think we're in that area working, so I'll
Okay.
check and see.
Okay.
No block?
And just to follow up on what Gene was saying, I'm seeing a lot of activity over by Accelerated Physical Therapy where they're in between the two buildings. I was talking to Matt Capo, and he said that, yeah, there's a spigot over there, and so people are sleeping in there and, in between, in the wooden fenced area. And so makes a lot of people uneasy when they're coming in the morning to go to their jobs, and that's next to Memorial's clinic. Also, man, I'm getting reports that the grass cutting's not being cut in Jordan River Estates. Can y'all check on that? A lot of people
Where
have
at?
been, they say it stops right at the beginning of Jordan River Estates, and people have been actually mowing it themselves.
I will, but I think they were just out there last week or so. I'll check to make
No,
sure.
they said they're stopping at the entrance of Jordan River Estates. And the neighbors were been cutting the grass in the ditches and things. Just
So
check
they're-
on it. Let's
They're not
follow up.
anywhere out there?
Excuse me?
Nowhere out there they cut?
Yeah, that's what I was told.
We'll check on that.
Thank you.
All right, now we talked about the public request ordinance or policy, I guess, if everybody can look at for next meeting. Turn in, any changes, requests.
Yes, and please get those to me. We just knew there was a heavy agenda tonight, so.
Yes, yeah. I know it's, yeah. I mean, we're charging for each page or each copy we're charging, right? And state does give you guidance on, you can waive some of those fees for a certain amount. You know, I don't know, that's what I'm asking Riso, what's the amount of papers do we really do a month or week? I don't know what you do, right? But it just says waiver of copy and charges. Public body has discretion to waive copy and charges for administrative convenience. Many agencies waive copy and charges for small requests. For example, some public bodies do not charge copy and fees for requests for 100 or fewer pages of standard photocopy, which I think that's crazy.
Yeah,
100
too.
pages, but I mean, do you have like 25 pages? But I don't know what y'all's, I don't know what y'all's requests are, right? Do you?
So here's the deal, is you never know what the requests are gonna be, and you never know who's gonna take advantage of that. So the problem with having that philosophy in a written policy is that there are quite a few citizens that would totally take advantage of it. So if you have people come in, I'm sure on almost probably a daily basis, somebody it comes in and asks for something and it's given to them. You know, I mean, for a nickel or 25 cents,
That's
whatever.
just hard to manage.
So some of
money
that
it
is just
to-
like an administrative daily, the way things go. But the problem with it and why you want it formal is, you need to know what people are asking for. And you legally have to keep up with it, and you have to, I mean, there is a cost associated with all of that. I mean, we're blessed now because the majority of our documents are online. Pretty much anything you can find, you can search right there online in our minutes and see on our agendas. But I definitely would never encourage you to adopt an ordinance that waives any fees just because you just never know when it's going to be an issue. And then once it becomes an issue, it's really hard to go in and change an ordinance because one person is taking advantage of something that you tried to do to make everybody's life easier.
And I would just also comment, a lot of times, if we have something digitally, like, or it's a link on the website to the minutes and approval of a contract, I'll just go and I'll find the minutes and I'll just email the guy the link to them and go, here's the link, here's this. Somebody asked me for the payroll ordinance for last year. Went to the
How are
agenda minutes and it was like,
indexed?
poof. I'm sorry.
How are the minutes indexed on the website?
If you're on the home page, if you hit meetings, it's like a past and future, and they're just chronological. Hit
I know,
meetings.
but to keep them searching the meeting, all these other books have indexes in them. So that if you were looking for something, the index helps you find something in the minutes.
You can just do a search though, I mean.
Search. I don't
So you
know
can
of
search?
any of them that have like indexes other than your same Unicode with your ordinances. They have, but yeah, you would just search.
Search a word, is that what you do, Kaylin? You search words or something? Okay. A couple of changes I want to see. It says municipal clerk. I want that changed to the city clerk, so Mike can designate somebody to make these requests.
It's basically just a universal term.
That's the legal
it's
term.
legal
of
term
city
for my
clerk is
position.
municipal clerk.
No, then make it
We
city
can put
clerk.
city clerk. No
Make
big
it
deal.
city clerk.
Would you like municipal city clerk? So what I'm saying is this is verbatim. I'll go double check this, but I think that is the language that is taken from
Well,
the
I know
statute.
that he's a city clerk, and if it comes city clerk, then it's him, and then I can call Mike and say, hey, listen, what about this? Another thing that I
We can
saw.
clarify. We can clarify.
Thank you. Another thing I saw on page 3, it says processing the public record request general, the municipal clerk or the clerk's designee, and you designate whoever you want to do these, may notify the crest. I want that changed to will.
Repeat it.
It says, it may, like, and it has a list of things that they're gonna do. So in other words, notify the request if records are available or not. I just don't want somebody to say, well, I don't have to notify them because it says may. I want will, that word will, put that in there.
What's all in that list? I don't have it in front of me, so what's all in that list?
I have it, you can have these changed too.
But it's page 3, is there a number or anything, Gary?
3, in parentheses. 3 in parentheses. You want this?
I'll come get it from you after, just to make sure I know exactly what you're talking about.
That's all I have.
Yeah, and state model ordinance is from 2010. It has never, I can't find an update because it says 15 cents a page, but inflation has been 44% since 2010, so you're about right on your document.
I'll look at what you're talking about, but it depends on what's all listed, because some of those things are required by law. So even if your ordinance says may, doesn't mean you still have to abide by law. But the reason that you would use a term like may is in case you're putting more restrictions in there that the state law does not require. But I'll look at them and make sure that we're in compliance.
All right, any more changes to this policy? So next meeting, we'll go ahead and adopt it. If you do find anything after you read it, I've got highlights.
Also, why is an accident report more expensive than a police report?
Just look and make sure it's valid.
And it could be, I don't have a clue, but the history of this, it could be the nature of the different calls.
I'm assuming a lot of accident reports are coming from insurance companies.
Yes, a lot of insurance companies, a lot of liability where if somebody's coming to ask for a police report, it's probably more of a personal.
Police get the most
type thing.
public records reports.
Yeah.
And
Oh, I
usually
understand.
accident reports and
Oh, they want them accident
accidents
reports.
and police reports.
'Cause they use that
And then
to,
the building department comes in second.
They use this as adjusters.
Yep. All right, anything else? All right, have those submitted and we'll adopt that next meeting. Spread reports, motion to spread the payroll report, hours report, cash balances, revenue expense reports, detailed grant revenue report, revenue expense report, gaming and sales tax report. Spread those on the minutes.
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Salvo.
Second.
Second, Mr. Lewis. Any discussion? Vote to motion.
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes 6-0. Ms. Smith, got any?
The only thing I was gonna update you on was the public records request. So we've already, everything else I've got, it's already been covered.
Okay.
Anything on the harbor?
No,
We
and
discussed that tonight. I was just curious.
yeah, and I don't really wanna go into any detail publicly, but I
Say-
mean, it's just exactly what those guys confirmed. It's
Cool.
finger pointing, and so we're still just working our ways through that to make sure we're pointing the finger at the right person.
Getting these quotes
And
will help.
I'd apologize
forward.
again that I forgot to put that on the agenda. It's mine. Harbor? They were Moffett and Nichols.
All right. Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Hoffman.
Second.
Second, Mr. Reed. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So Popeye.
No nays.
Huh?
Nobody wants to stay.
I don't know where they are.